judging over in Anaheim, California for the California Pro, and very, very surprising results so far. And judging, I know there's a rejudging later, a confirmation round, but some surprises here. This was supposed to be a very easy win for Sergio Oliva Jr. I'm not saying Sergio, he never said that. He's not arrogant like that. He didn't come out and say, I'm going to blow this show away, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of us, when we heard Sergio Oliva Jr. was headed to this show and he made it to California from Dubai and United Arab Emirates, we were like, wow. Well, there you go. There's your winner. Uh, Tonio Burton and Stu Sutherland, Beef Stew, they'd be fighting for second place. And everybody else would be fighting for spots. But we all assumed Sergio was gonna blow this out of the water. Sergio did not look his best. He was flat, didn't look big. Things weren't popping. I'm gonna throw a wild, crazy speculation out there, a theory. He had to fly all the way from Dubai to Los Angeles, unless he flew into Orange County Airport, John Wayne Airport. Very long flight, about 18 hours, I believe. In a situation like that, you can retain a lot of water. And what do you do to a bodybuilder to get rid of water very quickly? You give him diuretics. I'm not saying this is what happened. I don't know. But I've seen this happen before with other athletes. And it flattens you out. Diuretics are not selective. They don't just take the water out from under the skin the way you want them to. They take the water out of the muscles too. Because your muscles are what, 82.2% water? Something like that. So the first call out was Tonio Burton, no surprise. Ross Flanagan, Sergio Oliva Jr., and Stuart Sutherland, Beef Stew. The first thing I noticed was Tonio was a little bit off what I saw last week. Unless the lighting was that much better at the New York Pro, maybe it was. Ross Flanagan, this is the best I've ever seen Ross. Of course, I've only seen Ross Flanagan once at the Indy Pro last year at his debut. Wasn't that impressive. He looked much better today. Big, full, hard, structurally complete, no missing body parts. Here are the notes I took on him. Big man, wide, good quads, thick, side leg. His legs from the side are just crazy. The ham drop, the quads, everything looks phenomenal on him. Side chest is a great shot for him. And as you'll see in a moment, the final comparison of judging was Tonio and Ross. So that tells you that's your top two. And my spidey sense tells me if I'm a gambling man, I'd put my money on Tonio. I believe Tonio's got this one. But Ross is a very, very justifiable second. The call out before that was the fight for third through sixth. And it was comprised of Sergio Oliva Jr., Stewart, Beef Stew, Slavoj Bednar, who wasn't in the first call out, fought his way back up there, and Mike Hulusi from Australia, who I thought looked really good in terms of thickness and condition, kind of a funky structure, but a lot of muscle, very thin skin, very vascular, a lot of veins all over. And he fixed his tanning problem. He actually looks like he's got Dream Tan on, that sort of like metallic tint lotion stuff that you rub on. I don't know how many of you guys remember Dream Tan. All you older people do. All you guys over like 40, you know what I'm talking about when I say Dream Tan. Very popular in Europe. It's done at the last minute. They don't have to do coats and coats of it the way you do with like Pro Tan or other things. But so the final call out, was Tonio Burton and Ross Flanagan. So there's your top two. If I'm a gambling man, it looks to me like Sergio Oliva Jr. and Stu are fighting for third place. I honestly don't know who I'd give it to. Honestly, I mean, Sergio at his best would have destroyed this show. I give him all due credit. Sergio has a phenomenal physique. Even the pictures I was seeing of Sergio the last few days, the last few weeks, that Sergio would have probably won this show. That's not the Sergio I just saw on the live stream, the pay-per-view of them from Muscle Contest of this California Pro. Again, I'm just speculating as to what happened, but flat, he looked smaller. He did not look like a 285-pound shredded stud muffin the way he should. Sergio's got a crazy physique, man. When he's full and lean and hard, he's very tough to beat. He's, what was he, fourth or fifth at the Arnold a couple years ago? He's won a few pro shows. Let's see what you guys say. I want to hear from you guys who actually watched it, if possible. Of course, I'll listen to everybody. Is he winning? Is who winning? I believe Tonio's winning. And Ross Flanagan has second. This is from Marvin. M12. What happened? Who's winning? Tonio's winning. Sergio is just amazing from a gentleman with Arabic script as his name. I think we've gone through this before. Didn't we talk before on one of these things? M12, do you think Sergio can improve for the final? If he does, think he can win? He's too far behind now. Unless he, because they do factor it in. It's 50% of the score, the confirmation round. But if you're a solid third or fourth place, which he might be right now, it's too many points to make up. They do have some time. So they finish judging now. They don't go back on until it's 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So they have over 6 hours to change things. Sergio could tighten up. He could fill out a little bit, but to me, it's very flat look for him. I don't know if it's something that can be, if he could fill out that quickly. I don't know. Maybe, I'm not going to say it couldn't happen. Human body's a miraculous thing, and these coaches, he's got Chris Aceto, these coaches can do some crazy things with all the tools at their disposal. So who knows? We'll see. So Tony was just a little flatter than New York Pro. Mark says, I would go with Tonio was clear winner. Sergio's main. Do you think Sergio can prove it? Mark says, I would go with Ross. He's sharper. He is a little sharper. Tonio still has that crazy shape, very pretty structure and shape. I would still give it to Tonio. It's not a conditioning contest. It's an overall package contest. So size, shape, muscle shape, structure, that's your bone structure, conditioning, balance. I'd still give it to Tonio, but Ross Flanagan, really great showing for Ross today. Congratulations. Hats off to Ross Flanagan. He looks pretty damn great. Raymond Jones, Tonio was just a little flatter than New York Pro. I think the lighting isn't quite as crisp. New York Pro, this past New York Pro had some of the best lighting I've seen in a very, very long time. Gabe Whitmore, who's top two so far? We got Tonio Burton and Ross Flanagan. Mo Shaban did not show up. I just saw his Instagram this morning. Mo is doing Toronto next weekend, along with Ian Valliere, along with Hassan Mustafa. So some three top 10 Olympian guys are already in the mix for Toronto. But let's focus on California for now. Mark says, I don't know, Ron. Sergio's doing himself no favor. Elongating his waist, most poses. His back didn't improve much. His back looked really washed out, blurry to me. It just wasn't crisp. Didn't see a lot of separation and detail in his back. I can't read your name. We've gone through this before, isn't it? Hussein or the gentleman says, do not forget Sergio arrived in Cali late and did not get the full muscle fullness and got rid of the water. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I think that's what's hurting him. That's my best guess as to what's going on and why we're not seeing the best Sergio. Sergio at his best would have wiped the floor with these guys. And that's no disrespect to Tonio, Ross, Stu, but Sergio at his best is at a pretty high level. Sergio should be, in my mind, he should be top 5 at the Olympia every year at this point in his career. He is that good when he's 100%, when he's big and full, thick, grainy, dry. That Sergio Oliva Jr. would have killed the show today. Who gives a fuck? I would go with Ross too, same size, a bit wider, much sharper. Oh, he looks great. Don't get me wrong. I just think because shape does count a lot. Felony muscle. Sergio talks too much about how others don't bring it. He even talks if others are overrated, never brings it himself. He has brought it a few times. He didn't bring it today. I thought he looked pretty damn great at that Arnold Classic a couple years ago. He looked pretty good at the Legion when Clarita beat him. And, people say, well, he got beat by Sean Clarita. Well, Sean Clarita is a 2-time Olympia champion. So it's not, there's no shame in losing to Sean Clarita just because he's a lot shorter and lighter. Let's see, torso. Yeah, Sergio does have a longer torso. Raymond Jones, it was too late for Sergio to hop into the show. I agree. I mean, with a flight like that, most guys I've talked to, they try to be in town. So if they're coming to Las Vegas for the Olympia from Middle East or Africa, somewhere very far away, they try to be in the U.S. by Tuesday for a Friday night judging. It takes a few days to really balance the body out, get rid of the water, fill up. Just, flying wreaks havoc on the body. Those of you who know, who've taken very long flights and then checked out your physique, you know what I'm talking about. The problem is the flight, he came in late, yeah. Tony Ruggiero, you're welcome. Ross is a clear winner. He's a clear top two. He is sharper. He's bigger. But, Tonio was bigger. Wasn't the biggest guy last weekend in New York at all. There were several guys in the lineup who were much, much bigger, much, much heavier. But, he kind of reminds me of Dexter Jackson. Dexter used to routinely beat guys who had 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds on him. He did it many, many times in the course of his career. Flight, yeah, I don't know if this is a great idea. Daniel Noble, Sergio claims he's just happy to compete due to the situation in Dubai, but he always has an excuse. I'm sure he's happy to be competing again. It's been a long time, but Sergio should be winning a show like this. I hold Sergio to a very high standard because he's that good. He's damn good. So for him to come into this show with that lineup, no one from the Olympia, none of the top guys at all, and not be able to win this show. And again, I think it's a situation of this last minute decision to do the show, or maybe he only got approval to travel. I don't know what the deal was. I don't know. I mean, I hope he holds. If I were Sergio, and I'm not, I would hold on and stay here and go to Toronto. Now he's going to have another week to really level out the body and look the way he needs to look. Then he's going to be a force to reckon with. Let's see. Ross should win because Tony was qualified to Mr. O. No, no. The best man should win regardless of if he's already qualified. We don't need another Olympia with 32 guys on stage. No, we don't. No, I don't want to see tons and tons of guys compete at the Olympia, qualify for the Olympia, because it's supposed to be a very elite show. It's the Mr. Olympia. So, I don't think the judges are going to, if it was super close, like they couldn't make up their minds, I'm not speaking for the judges. Don't even go there, guys. But if I'm a judge and to me, I can flip a coin and one guy's qualified and I know the other guy's like dying to get to the Olympia, maybe I'd be like, all right, whatever. He can win. But I'm not a judge. Felony Muscle. I can hear Sergio now with the 100 excuses. I don't think he's going to have 100. He probably will talk about the flight, which is legitimate. Tony's much softer than Ross. Let's see. Let's go back. I can hear Sergio now. Heard about the Ross for the first time. Clear winner. Yeah, this is only a second pro show, and most people didn't even notice him last year at the Indie Pro because he messed up his peak week, or he screwed up at the end and didn't look the way he wanted to look, so he didn't get a good call out. M12, do you think Sergio's decision to compete at the Cali Pro was a mistake, especially considering the last minute long flight? Should wait, maybe do Toronto. If he had got there a few days earlier, I think everything would have been fine, but I think it was a mistake to arrive in California from such a long flight. And I'm just, I'm offering up an excuse because I think that's what happened. You don't just come off a international flight that long and your body's not going to cooperate all the time. Reef, if they decide they want to award conditioning today, Ross has it. If they prefer the 3D lines, Tonio, hard to say. Yeah, Ross definitely better condition, bigger guy. Paul Bartlett, this is the Paul Bartlett from my buddy on Instagram that I missed last week in New York. Tonio guest posing, Ross wins or it's a robbery. Tonio's not that far off. It's not like he got fat or spilled over crazy. He's not as tight as he was last week in New York. No, and Ross is definitely tighter. But condition is just one thing they're looking at. It's not like Tonio's way out of shape. Ross is in great shape, but Tonio's just got a very pretty physique. It could go either way. I wouldn't be overly surprised if Ross gets this. I would not, because, Tonio's already qualified for the Olympia. He did not bring the same look he had in New York. He's a little bit off. I could say the same about Stu. Stu looks a little bit off from last week, too. It's hard, man, to hold these peaks for weeks and weeks. Daniel Noble, is the IFBB still fining people for dropping big shows last minute like that? Who dropped out? I don't know if anybody dropped out. I haven't heard about them fining anybody because they were much, much stricter back in the day when Wayne D'Amelia was running things. He was like a Nazi. Yeah, I said the N word because he would fine these guys back in the old days. They had to sign contracts at the beginning of every year for all the shows they intended to do that season. They couldn't jump into shows last minute. They couldn't pull out of shows last minute unless they had a legitimate medical excuse and a doctor had to sign off on that, or else they got a big fine, like $5,000, $10,000 fines. And sometimes they were suspended. It was rough back in the day, guys. Things were rough back then. Who gives a fuck? Tony was much softer than Ross, yeah. Brian, I don't understand Sergio's posing. Rich B, if Sergio would have flown in early, he would have probably won, hence the water and diuretics. Yeah, like I keep saying this because I don't want to come across as Sergio hater. I like Sergio. I'm a fan of his physique. I think he's a cool dude. We've talked many times. And Sergio at his best would have destroyed the show. It would have been Sergio and everybody else. It wouldn't have even been close. He's at that level. He's that good. Let's see. Paul Bartlett. Sergio is 40 weeks out. Cut him some slack. He got in a car accident. You can't. Unfortunately, you can't. You can't cut people slack because of what happened to them. Because judges judge what's in front of them. If you got sick or you got in a car accident or whatever happened to you, it's rough. But the judges are judging the physiques in front of them, regardless of excuses. The best physique has to be ascertained as number one. And we can't say, well, this guy's off, but I know he had a stomach bug and that's why he's smooth. No, there's no excuses. There's no excuses. They're just judging what's in front of them and they don't factor in anything like that. They shouldn't. All right says, I'd go with Ross from the HD Pictures, As Reef, Sergio has to be on stage to get back in the conversation. Yeah, I'm glad he's competing. Again, I hope he does Toronto. I'd love to see him do a few shows this year. He's been away too long. Brian asks, Ross Antonio proof conditioning win shows? I mean, there's a couple guys who have very similar conditioning. This Mike Calusi from Australia, he's in pretty damn good condition, but his structure and shape is not the greatest, so that's why he's not up there. Anybody else was really good? Yeah, a lot of discipline. There were 13 men on there, up on this, and about half of them were just not very good at all. The quality dropped off dramatically after, say, the top 6, 7 guys. If I don't think he can get to leave Dubai, yeah, I guess he's able to. The lower back was bad for Sergio, but I hope his body will adapt after this tournament because there's no flying anymore. Yeah, I agree. Brian says Sergio will dominate his next show. Yeah, Sergio at his best is he's great. Dane, hopefully Sergio will stay in the States, tighten up and do more shows. Well, he lives in Dubai, so he's going to have to go back there eventually. Sergio should stay in the U.S. and prove his posing big time. I've seen him pose much better than that. I think mentally, here I go, I'm speculating, but I'm a competitor and I've talked to tons of these guys. So I kind of understand what can happen. When you don't look your best, when you're off, you look, and he knows, Sergio knows, that's not his best. It's hard to be confident up there. It's hard to really pull off that winning vibe, that charisma, that, holding yourself like a champion, feeling like a winner when you're not the winner. Mark, Sergio should stay in the States. Okay, yeah, sorry. Let's go, Brandon. Warm-up show for Sergio. Well, like I said, I'm glad he's back. It's good to see him back on stage. He's not going to win this one today unless he pulls a rabbit out of his hat and comes back looking like the Sergio we all know and love in a few hours. But even then, I think Ross, Antonio they're too far ahead of him in the scores right now. He could pull off, he might be able to, I don't know. We'll see what happens, guys. Who has the best photos to look at after these contests? Typically NPC News Online. They have the best. They're always seated right front and center. It's their show. They run this stuff. NPC News Online, those pictures, I don't know if they'll be up today or you have to wait till tomorrow, but great shots. They're the official photographers for their own events. Ross really surprised me. Yeah, Brian, I agree. I wasn't, I was expecting good things from Ross. I've been looking at his updates, but he pulled it off today. He really did a great job. Alberto Mondejo checking in on ¿Qué pasa? Gentlemen in the Middle East somewhere. I was hoping to see big men, but do you see that they prefer that Olympia approach so that they participate? Well, there's not that many huge bodybuilders anymore. There's not. I mean, who do we have now that's huge and has awesome shape? Not too many guys. I can't really think of many at all. I mean, most of them are waiting for the Olympia at this point, or a show close to a mark. Honestly, Ross is pretty good. I could see him just outside the top 10th Olympia. Yeah. When is prejudging Frankfurt? It's over. It's all over. It was at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and it lasted about a half hour. It was only 13 guys. It was only one class. They're doing that. They have an NPC show with it now, and that's what they're doing. Let's see, Ross, pretty good. Who wins prejudging? Ron, I missed it. How's Sergio looking, Larry? He's not looking good. He's smaller. He's flat, blurry, just not tight. Things aren't popping. I think they try to pull too much water out of him. That's my best guess, 'cause that's the way it looks to me when I look at that. What he brought today, not his best, not even close to his best. At his best, he's deadly, but this is not it. Mo and no show. Yeah, Mo didn't do the show. Mo Shaban. Only way to get better is critique. Well, I mean, he needs to stay here in the U.S. or whatever. He's got friends in California. Stay in the U.S. or Vegas or whatever. Go to Toronto. Do the Toronto show. He's got time to sort his body out. I bet he could look 50% better in Toronto. I bet he could be pushing Ian, Shaban for sure, Hassan. Who else did we say was doing the show? Those three. He could be pushing them all next week in Toronto. Rich B. Yeah, Ron. Sergio needs to stay in the States, do the next Olympic qualifier. He's clearly in shape, just holding water, do the long flight. Yeah, I mean, I could tell it's something. It was like a last minute thing. M12. Hadi had similar situation to Sergio at 2020 Olympia. Yeah, still was able to bring really good condition. So I don't know if that's really excuse for Sergio to look that bad. Yeah, I don't think he was as lean as Hadi was in 2020. But what we saw with Hadi was Friday night he looked pretty damn good. But then when Hani Rambod, his coach, pulled out the water because he had arrived late, last minute from Iran, Persia. And he looked way better at the finals in 2020. But he had a full 24 hours to do that. Larry Holstein, feel like Sergio has the most potential of anyone, right up there. Agreed with Rich, he needs to stay stateside. Ourselves. Xavier seemed to like Sung Chul Lee. What do you think? Sung Chul Lee has a lot of potential. Talking about the big guy from Korea. He is a big dude. I've stood around him and next to him, whatever. He's about 6 foot. He's a big Korean. Big, much bigger than me. Huge guy, huge arms. What did I write for Sung Chul? Huge arms and delts, thick, wide. Condition, he was like 80%. He looked to me like he was about 4 weeks out. Didn't bring the condition, which is that's been my knock on Sung Chul Lee almost every time I've seen him. I don't think I've ever seen that guy really dialed in, super tight, shredded the way he should be because he's got a ton of muscle, good structure, good shape, just doesn't bring the condition. And I know I sound like a broken record when I say that, but man, condition's so important. It really is. Larry Holston's crazy how similar Tony is to Dexter. They're not like clones, but there's a lot of similarities shape wise. Yeah. Fred. Okay. Well, I couldn't tell your name was Fred because I can barely read English, let alone Arabic. But Dubai. My name's Fred for your question. Yeah. Thank you, Fred. Thanks for clearing that up. Appreciate that. So Dubai is that's where Sergio came out of. So tell me, Fred, if you've flown to Los Angeles before, if you ever have, am I right? Is about 18 hours flying altogether? Would be that's my guess. I mean, just from the East Coast of the U.S. to California, that's like 7 hours. That's like it's about a 7 hour flight. So I can imagine you could tack on another 10 to 12 hours getting from Dubai to New York or Boston to do that. Because I'm sure I very much doubt it was a direct flight. Usually, you have to connect somewhere. Let's see. Ross is doing Toronto as well. Yep, Toronto should be a great show next weekend. We'll be doing more coverage on Toronto. We'll be doing the live wrap ups with myself and Giles and everything. That's going to be a bigger show, some bigger names. This is kind of a more of a bare bones coverage situation. Mo Shaban was the pullout. Oh well, Mo was never on the list. Robbie. I was checking that list all week to see who was added and this and that. And he was never on the list in the first place. So I don't think you couldn't say he pulled out if he was never actually in the contest. I don't know if he ever intended to do it and decided not to. I don't know. Mark. Honestly, it's still a pretty weak show. Tony will probably win. I don't see him in the top 10 of the O. Yeah, I just had a big argument with somebody about him being in the first call out. Yeah, it's a stretch, I know. Brandel was 10th. I don't see Tonio beating him. I don't know. Tonio with a little bit more size, a few more pounds, which he has time to put on, and better condition, he'd be pushing Brando. Rafael's very good, don't get me wrong, but Tonio's got a lot of potential. Tony Ruggiero, even if a guy is off his best condition, he should know how to hit his poses properly. I've seen many guests pose out of shape. They still execute their pose properly. That's no excuse for Sergio. I'm going to try to come up with an excuse for him here. If they had to pull a ton of water out of him because he was holding a ton of water, which is what it looks like to me because he's so flat, he's probably not feeling very good. It's those of you who've used diuretics before, you don't feel good when you lose all that water. You feel ill, you feel weak, tired. So he's still got a smile on his face. He's still hitting those poses, but inside, it's probably a struggle. He's probably having a rough time up there. At what level should you know how to pose? He won Best Poser at the Arnold a couple of years ago, Sergio. He did. He got the Best Poser award, so he does know how to pose. I think it's his physically how he's feeling right now that's impacting the way he's posing. Robbie Bell, I think the top four is pretty strong. I agree. Fred says, yes, it's one 17-hour flight to New York. Wow. So I'd say Sergio had too much water retention. It was hard to get rid of in 2 days. So 17 hours from Dubai to New York. And then it's got to be about, yeah, I've done the flight. I've flown to California many times from Boston. It's it's between 6 and 8 hours. I'm just going to say 7. So 17 plus, that's like 24 hours of flying, man. That's a lot of time to be on a plane. Especially using garbage like Lasix. Well, I don't know what he's used. Again, I'm speculating. I don't know if he's used any diuretics. I'm just basing it off what I see and the effects I know that these things have on the physique of a guy in contest shape. It flattens you out tremendously. Yeah, it's Michelle for review. Serious house promotion, balance for showing. Oh, well, your message is held for review, so I can't read it. Robbie Bell says, people keep saying Sergio would do this and that, and he almost never delivers. He hasn't delivered a lot for his fans so far. It's not easy being a Sergio fan because, I'm a Sergio fan. I want to see him compete more. I want to see him winning shows. I want to see him up at the Olympia, fighting for the Olympia title. And I haven't seen that yet. And, he's been competing as a pro now for 6 years. First pro show was his first pro win, 2017 New York Pro. 17? Yeah, 17. Anyway, let's see. 17, 40 minutes set for my flight in 21. Wow. Yeah. M12, why didn't he just pull out the show? Obviously, he wasn't looking good. Why don't you just pull out especially the shape he had? Well, he was looking really good. He was. I mean, if you follow him on his social media, he was looking really good. Big, full, tight. The pictures of him I saw just a few days ago and last week, I think that look would have probably won the show today very, very handily. No offense to anybody. He would have beat Ross, Tonio. Yeah, but that's not what we got today. Mark says, aceto and diuretic is a pretty well-known love story. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, most coaches, if not all of them, they all employ diuretics with clients. Some clients, sometimes. Not all clients all the time, but they're a very commonly used tool to get the water out. Robbie Bell, people are actually still talking about him being a contender for the O. He's about 40 and struggles to qualify. I think he's 38 now. I think. Yeah, the clock is ticking. It's not over yet. It's not too late for Sergio, but there's no time to waste. He needs to make this happen soon because you don't have forever to be a pro bodybuilder. You don't have forever to try to win the Olympia. Human body's got a certain window of time where you can be your physical best, and that's it. Once it's gone, it's gone. He still has that window, but he better get moving. Samson, so a minimum of 24 hours of flight time. That's if a connecting flight was immediately available. Could be hours of layover time. How old is Sergio? I believe he is 38. Should we do a quick search? I'll do a search, guys. What the heck? New window. Go to Google. Do a free live. Sergio Oliva Jr. age. 38. Because Wikipedia's never wrong. We know that, right? This said he was... What the hell? Yeah, his dad died in 2012, not him. Is it a birthday here? Just trying to find out when his birthday is for you guys. Stats. That doesn't have his... October 20th, 1984. If that's true, he wouldn't be 38 yet, right? 84? Oh, yeah, he would. So he'll be 39 in October. October 29th, he'll turn 39. He's 38 years old. So, okay, well, there's your answer. He's 38. He'll be 39 in October 20th. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the clock is... Larry Holstein, clock really is ticking. I thought he was mid-30s tops. Robbie Bell, I think Sergio needs a Samson-esque offseason. I don't think he needs much of an offseason. He hasn't competed since the fall of 2021, so he had all of 22 for an offseason, a full year, and at his level, he should be pretty much done as far as size, bringing up any lagging body parts. Everything should be done in terms of the mass and the body parts. Now it's really just getting in great condition, presentation, the fine-tuning, the details, the detail work, everything else. At this point, he's as big as he's going to get. He doesn't need to be any bigger. What we saw today, that's not an accurate representation. Sergio At his best, would be like 280 shredded. The way he looked at the Arnold a couple years ago, even the way he looked at that Legion was pretty damn good. And he was about 280 at both of those. Mark, Lavergne used to move in the airplane the whole flight, yeah, to avoid holding water. So that was a secret to sweep the Grand Prix shows. Yeah, Lavergne claims he used to like go up and down the aisles in the airplane, which was to annoy the crap out of the flight attendants, but he said that was a secret. Not everybody holds water the equal. Some people don't hold much water from flights. Other people become like water buffaloes, like waterlogged. Robbie Bell is a year off season but put on 0 mass. I mean, he didn't really need any more mass. He's big enough. When he first came on the pro scene, he still had a little bit of filling out to do back in 2017. But in the couple years after that, I think he did it. When he was living in San Diego, I think he completed his project as far as putting on all the mass he needed. I don't think surgery needs to be any bigger. Polishing at this point, says Larry, yeah. M12. Any information why Patrick pulled out of the show? Didn't he say after the Arnold he's prepping for the Cali? Patrick. Which Patrick are we talking about? Help me out, guys. Help me out, M12. Which Patrick are we saying? The Arnold he's prepping for the Cali? Patrick who? Fred says, man, Sergio here in Dubai, he's training really, really hard, but I saw him a week ago and his body was just crazy incredible. Yeah. As I said, I know I was seeing the videos he's posting on his Instagram. He looked great last week. Great. That Sergio would have destroyed this show. Would have knocked it out of the park. No offense to Tonio or Ross or Stu or anybody else. But Sergio's legs are... Oh, Patrick Moore. Yeah, Patrick's very good. Sergio's legs are going... I mean, I think it was just a flatness issue. They didn't look that bad. But they haven't gotten much better. I agree. Oh, we've really rock bottom? Oh, thanks, Ryan. How we hit rock bottom. Well, that's a pretty random comment, but okay. Dane, it's a Tony and Ross show, but everyone's talking about Sergio. Maybe people are afraid to admit they're rooting for him. He's an underdog at this point. Maybe he'll pick up more fans. Maybe. But Ryan, to be fair, everyone looks great on Instagram. I agree. Yeah. A lot of people, it doesn't translate from Instagram, but pictures, doctored pictures, I never really put much faith in. But videos, I do put more stock in videos because they're not photoshopped. They're not really filtered. You can't manipulate videos. Most people can't. The way you can manipulate the photos on Instagram. So if I see posing shots of someone on Instagram, I can get a much more accurate idea of what they look like. Who's winning? I got my kids at Playground. Right now it's between Tonio Burton and Ross Flanagan. I still have Tonio in first. Yeah, Ryan's a troll. He's got the 3 laughy faces. It's funny how that comment wasn't held. We held some other comment that wasn't even offensive in any way, and we let this one roll. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up. I guess I'll come back tonight, tell you who won. It's hours and hours away, so put on your notifications, do all that good stuff. Like the video, share the video, do all that stuff. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Jose Raymond thinking we chose. Yeah, remember we all thought Cleveland would win the Arnold and he ended up 5th. Yeah, we all like who we like, guys. Just because someone makes a prediction. I'm about to do some Adderall and kill the gym. There you go. 30 minutes pre-workout under the tongue. Let it dissolve. Don't swallow the Anadrol. Let it dissolve on your tongue. Give your liver a little break. Anadrol. Good stuff. All right. Enjoy. Have a great workout, Blizzy, Blake, Yappa. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back later tonight. 9 p.m. Eastern is the finals, so I imagine it's not going to wrap up till about 10:30. Anyway, we'll be back later to let you know who won. It's looking to me like it's either Tonio Burton or Ross Flanagan right now. They are neck and neck. They were the last call out, just those two guys. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy.